I'm drawing now.
I'll teach you all the techniques for working with clay. I'll teach you those, okay? Garbage bags. Garbage
And Miss
bags.
Granger,
Uh-huh.
so we have to, right now we're just drawing our sketch of the bottle, right? Or we're writing down the notes.
Right now, you're going to watch my demonstration on how to start your drawing. And once you watch this, you'll understand what to do.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just watching me right now. Okay, so I wanted to show you a couple things. You're going to be working with clay. When it's wet, it's really gray. It's a gray color. It looks like this. You probably picked it up already, but if you haven't, you're going to pick it up soon. It looks like this. And that gray is actually called talc. And talc is just an ingredient in the clay body, and it actually fires white. So this is what your clay will look like after you bisque fire it, which is the first firing. When you're working with clay, you fire things twice. And the first firing is called the bisque, and the second firing is called the glaze. And so it'll be white like this. And this is a really good, it's a really good color to paint on because it's like painting on a white canvas. So you'll be painting very colorful underglazes and glazes on here, and you'll fire it again in a glaze firing. And I should have grabbed a smaller example here, but maybe if I move my camera. This is a sculpture of Kiki Smith, who's one of my favorite artists. But this is what the glaze looks like. It's really, really bright and beautiful and shiny too. So that's what your piece is going to look like after you fire it. And because you guys are coming back on campus, we can now glaze fire it. So that's pretty neat. All right, so
You're coming back onto campus?
Eventually, yeah. We're hoping that by the end of the school year, you guys will be, if you signed up for hybrid, you'll be back on campus in a hybrid fashion.
Does our piece have to be cultural?
I'd like you to include some of your culture in there. It doesn't have to be a big piece, a big part.
Can it just have like my flag colors or something when I paint it or something?
Sure. So here's some examples. These are little teapots I've made over the years as demos for ceramics. But these are the lids. I'm going to teach you how to make a capsule with a lid. Okay, so I just wanted to show you a couple different things to kind of give you an idea of what the materials are that you're going to be working with. So, but how do we start? So I want you to work on a big piece of paper. Get the biggest piece of paper that I gave you, which I think is maybe half this size. I love to draw big when I'm coming up with ideas. It helps, it makes me feel like there's an infinite amount of room for my thoughts. And I made a list. You don't have to do this, but this was really helpful to me. So I'm going to make a time capsule, and I'm using this Indian metal box with this latch kind of as inspiration. Mine will be different. And I'm thinking about, I want to capture this year in my time capsule, because in the future I'm going to want to look back on this year and try to learn some things from my experiences this year. In a lot of ways, this year has been really, really hard for everybody, right? Because of the pandemic, and also there was a lot of political unrest as well, and a lot of racial unrest, and it just was a year of a lot of unrest. So, but there was also a lot of really beautiful things that happened this year because we spent a lot more time together. So everybody has a different story, and everybody's objects and story is going to be different. But I want you to get really reflective about this year and think about your future self in maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now. If you open this box, what are you going to want to find in that box? Or what are the objects in that box going to say about who you were in this moment? So I thought about this year, and I kind of divided it up into poignant categories. I'm laughing that food is at the top here. Food, because I had a lot of time at home, right? So there's a lot of cooking that happened. Family holidays were kind of significant this year because we had to do them differently. Virtual, that's a significant category. COVID-19, of course. Politics, nature, art, tradition, and new experiences. So some of the things I put in my categories, some of the things I like to cook, right? Before I had my baby, I was vegan for a long time, and then I started eating dairy again, um, and I'm trying to go back to vegan. So I really practiced that a lot this year. Lots of Instapot recipes, and also learned how to make baby food. So that was kind of fun. Family. So I interacted with my family differently this year, right? Because I couldn't be with them. My family mostly lives in North Carolina. So lots of FaceTimes with my mom and my sister and my dad. And then trying to share my son's first year of life with my family was really hard to do that alone. But also, almost in a way, more communication because we FaceTimed every day. We still do. Holidays. So when you have a kid, you want them to experience the holidays and the traditions of your family. So teaching him about those was really a big moment this year. And then also learning about holidays that I want him to experience, like Diwali, virtual, Zooming, teaching virtually. Oh my gosh, that was a huge adventure this year. Also, the pitfalls of social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of those things were challenging this year because people were so intense. COVID 19 stuff, distance isolation, missing opportunities. So, the hard things about this pandemic, politics, the election, social media, the insurrection, all of those things are poignant historical moments from this year. How do we deal with all this stuff? Well, nature, hikes, walks. I got a backpack for my son. I have a picture of that in here. We hiked around in that backpack. Making art. I made him a lot of felt art, felt boards. So it might be fun to include some felt art in there. Simple things. Maybe his height chart. Maybe like a version of his height chart might be fun for this year. Teaching. So traditions, teaching him about new things. And then just new experiences that you had this year. So you don't have to put all of this inside your capsule or your bottle. This is just my way of like outlining what might be important to me to represent this year. And then cultural things too, like where am I from? What is my cultural heritage and history? I'm English and German and also Yugoslavian, so I could throw some of those in there in the decoration. You do not need to print out these if you don't want to, but I find them helpful, just to give me ideas or like references for drawing. So my capsule is going to look a little bit like that. Of course, I might throw a mask in there. I might reference the cardboard box, right? Because we all just used way too many of those this year. I will find some photos. Oops, let me get my light back on. Some photos, if you have a way to print your photos, or maybe you could send some images to Walgreens and have them printed, or Kinko's. A picture of myself hiking with my son. This is just an example. Maybe Zoom, somehow representing a Zoom, like maybe a photo of me Zooming or something. Some type of reference from the election. I thought maybe it would be fun to put my voter card and my voter sticker in there. I got a I voted sticker. It might be fun to include that. Maybe images of some Diwali experiences I had with Beckett. Christmas. It was his first Christmas, so maybe pictures of our Christmas tree. This is the single most important object in my son's life right now. This is a pacifier, obviously. So maybe throwing in one of his passies might be kind of a good way to remember that. All right, so these are just reference images. You can cut and paste and collage if you want, but I'm going to draw. So I'd like you guys to have two versions of your vessel here, and I'm going to speed this up because I know we're almost out of time. Mine is going to be kind of organic, but maybe like not perfect. I kind of like things that are not as perfect. Maybe it looks a little bit like like a rock or a carved stone or something. And I love this hinge, so maybe mine can have some type of like hinge on it. It's probably not going to be functional, or it could be, but you know, these are the things that could possibly fall off, right? So that would be maybe the start of it. I love this texture down here. And then around the outside, I'm noticing this is made out of metal, but it's got carving on it. So this is where I could possibly create my story, pull in my story. I could carve my story or paint my story into this. And I was thinking about this before, like there's the outside of your vessel and there's the inside of your vessel. So the outside, and you can write on your drawing some notes, right? The outside, maybe I should choose things that were external or outside in my world right now. So politics is important to me, but it was external, right? It was happening kind of around me and outside. COVID-19 could be outside. Virtual, maybe. I could represent those things. And then inside. What's going to be inside? So this could be more internal, like nature is really kind of spiritual about nature. So I'm going to include that on the inside, maybe with some objects, or I could even sculpt something and put it on the inside. Like I could sculpt maybe my favorite flower. I love dogwood flowers. I love dogwood trees, and mostly because I did a lot of trips to Yosemite growing up with my family, and there were always those beautiful pink dogwood trees, all in bloom. So I could sculpt some of those and put them inside. I could sculpt them out of clay. Art is always an internal thing for me. So maybe I can include felt art, or maybe like Beckett. Beckett's my son's name. Beckett's first drawing. It's gonna be hard for me to let that go, but I could put it in there. Some of the traditions, like the traditions are really, you know, important to our life. So traditions, art,
Miss
holidays.
Greninger?
Yeah.
Miss Greninger?
Yes.
What if you're making a message in a bottle? Do you still have to like write those things in it?
Yes. So if you're doing a message in a bottle, you're going to do exactly.
Because like if it's a bottle, you can't put too much things in it, can you? You can just put a message in it.
It totally depends. Like if you're making a bottle, here I'm going to do like a smaller version of the bottle. If you're making a bottle, your bottle can be shaped any way you want it to be shaped. It could be, you know, bigger. It could be like kind of like that, right? And
Okay,
of course,
I can do that.
of course, the things that you put inside will have to fit through the neck. So you have to consider that. And most of the time, messages in bottles only have like a paper message in there. So, but you can throw a couple little objects in there if you want to, if they relate to your message. But on the outside of the bottle, that's where you can carve and paint and do all of the things we're talking about. Okay, so there's potential there for adding things. But yes, you're going to go through the same process that I'm going through right now of drawing it out. And then I want to see what your vessel might look like from the inside. So do your best to try to do sort of a drawing of your vessel kind of open. And now I'm doing this very quickly. You guys can take more time to do this. And then like what the lid might look like. Now, as I say, any drawing or any research is just an opportunity to get ideas. You do not need to 100% commit to this final drawing, and as you're sculpting, it's going to change. Okay. So once I get things written out and kind of drawn out, you can do it with, you don't have to do it with a Sharpie. I do because it's hard to see pencil through this webcam. You're going to take color and you're really going to think about color. So maybe I do kind of a sketch and a drawing on here. Maybe the like what happened this year, right? Like March all the way through March of this year. I could put all in here, you know, like here's me hiking with my son, and here's me zooming at school, you know, sitting here on at my desk, you know, just all the way around the pot. I could carve those things or paint those things. And then I want you to think about color too and add color, because you're going to get to glaze these. And if we don't get to glaze them, for some reason we don't get to come back to school, which I highly doubt, we can paint them with acrylics. Okay, so it's 10:03 and it's really time for class to